You're listening to NorthWoods Church Matters, a podcast of NorthWoods Church in Evansville, Indiana, where we discuss why the local church matters and things that matter to the local church. I'm your host, Matt Higgins. This is part 2 of our discussion on language and cussing.
Do Christian cuss words carry the same effect as real cuss words?
This is a fun question. So, what is your favorite Christian cuss word, guys?
I don't know that I know like the category, but I mean, is it like the dag-nabbits?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Dag-nabbit.
Dag-nabbit.
Phooey.
So I had a great uncle, rest in peace, that would say thunder. That was just his, if something blew his mind, thunder. If he was to hit his finger with a hammer, thunder. And it was just thunder for everything. And why thunder?
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I think he's the only person I've ever heard mutter that specific word.
Going back to the principle of the previous question, like if the key is the heart, then it doesn't necessarily mean the legalism of the word we're saying. It means the heart behind it could be sinful. It's the same type of principle when Jesus talks about adultery and anger and murder.
It's a perversion.
It's a perversion. And so when we lust after a woman, it's the same as committing adultery. If we are angry with somebody, it's the same as murder. If we have a heart that's unkind to somebody and then we say a Christian cuss word instead of a real cuss word, so to speak, isn't our heart just as wrong? And it goes back to those Ephesians verses, like in your heart, you're not being thankful for the presence of somebody else. You're not being gracious towards the other person. It's all these good attitudes that we should have, but we don't. And if our attitude is junk, then that means that the Christian cuss word that we use to supplant that is no bueno as well.
Are there generational and cultural aspects of cussing?
So go back to the principle again. And so in terms of culture, morality does shift because morality is often relative based on cultural norms. But in terms of Christianity and following the Lord, God's morality does not shift. And so we have to view it through those lenses that what God has to say about his creation never changes, and as God never changes. He's the one that made us, and so he has the right to speak truthfully about his creation. But if you're just looking at things through a purely cultural lens, you see the foolishness of culture because it does shift and it does migrate from one cultural setting to another, one group of people to another. We have these questions quite honestly, oftentimes in mission settings. It's like, how do I go to a different culture and not offend somebody? How do I not make a certain gesture or say something that is going to be personally offensive to somebody? And so there is an honorable way to really think about that. But should it change? Well, unfortunately, due to sin, our language changes. After the Tower of Babel, everybody's language is scattered. And this is part of the confusing nature of living in a post-Babel society, that what is immoral and what is good language or bad language it can change from one part of the world to the other, or from Kentucky to Indiana. I mean, it could change from Ivan's family to Carrie's family. And that's the confusing nature of the world that we live in. But I will say that when I say certain things at certain times, like the younger generation, there's certain things that get said and it's not taken kindly. And so an example of that will be, and I'm going to use a very musical term here, that I was trained in high school as a musician. And so when I say at the end of the song in worship practice, we're going to retard at the end of the song, I'm not making an insult, but there is a certain college student that used to reside in my house that would tell me that it's an inappropriate thing to say.
Like tools?
Yeah.
Right? As time goes on, we've seen like you can't call certain things that on a job site or in an office setting because that offends people. I caught someone at work the other day saying it, and honest to goodness, he had no intention of it, but I was just like, hey, That has a different meaning now. And,
And like from a real estate standpoint, we've moved away from the term master bedroom now. I forgot what it is, but
Right.
culturally that term has.
Yeah. And so it's confusing going into a different cultural landscape. Like I go to Clemson University to visit, and there's certain words that like are said that is just like commonplace, like a adjective that probably shouldn't be an adjective. And then there's other words that someone would say, and then you're told that they're a slur. Sometimes I have a difficulty bridging generations in terms of what changes and what doesn't change.
When I was in 5th grade, family moved into the neighborhood from New York, and the language that came with them blew my mind. I had never heard a sailor that sailory before.
Yeah.
And so I say that to say this, there was a cultural difference.
There was a cultural difference. Yeah, for sure.
So how should Christians respond around other people who cuss? Should they cuss back?
We make it our aim to please God in every circumstance. That's 2 Corinthians 5:9. Whether we're away or whether we're at home, we make it our aim to please God. And so if somebody else is doing something dishonorable or not having good speech, our job as Christians is to be pleasing to God and consider what he thinks. And so I think there's sometimes a fear of man type issue that comes in when we get in a crowd of people and they're all having coarse talk, or they're talking about things they shouldn't be talking about, or they're talking about inappropriate subjects. And oftentimes we just feel like we need to fit in by not calling a spade a spade. And I think if it's a group of lost people that you're around, your goal is to stay as holy as you can, live to please God. But then there's another level of it that if this is a group of believers, professing believers that you're around, then you have to eventually figure out, okay, so how do I speak the truth and love to these people and be some salt and light in the situation and figure it out? And that may not be the easiest situation.
And maybe it's not a group setting, right then and there.
Yeah.
Right? It may be pull the ringleader out and have coffee with them or something, but
yeah. And it may not be just a cuss word. It could be like the whole issue of corrupting thought, I think, is beyond just the George Carlin 7 words you shouldn't say on TV. It goes down to heart issues. And then is there just nasty, unwholesome things that you just shouldn't be talking about? I remember I was thinking about this earlier today, all the podcast questions. And one scenario that came to mind was that I was on a work trip and we were driving someplace long distance. And it's one of those things where you're trapped in a car with people for a long period of time. And I was in the car with 3 other guys, and the guys were professing believers. And one of the guys in the back was talking about how little he slept because he was really excited that his wife had sex with him. And then he didn't leave it at that. For the next 5 or 10 minutes, went on to describe like very intimate details of the bedroom situations and things that they were doing. And like the guy that was in the driver's seat that was driving, like he was digging it. Like they were just digging into that whole situation. And I'm in the passenger seat and I'm just like cringing the whole time. It's like,
I'm cringing here.
yeah. It's unwholesome talk, corrupting talk. And that could apply to sexual situations. It could apply to bathroom situations, political situations. It can apply to hateful situations. There's just times where you just need to get out and not be a part of that situation. And then there's other situations where you just need to rebuke somebody in love and tell them, like, this is just not appropriate to talk about. And unfortunately, with our TikTok culture, I feel like we've just gotten to the point where we have these reels of comedians and podcast hosts that it seems like all they talk about is the mechanics of sex. And that's something that should be bringing honor to God and save for the marital bedroom and not broadcast over a podcast.
There was a speaker I was listening to at a conference once that he said, no one's ever better after hearing a story about sin. And that stuck with me because I'm just like,
what a good statement.
It's such a good statement. My mind goes just straight to, yeah, you're right. Every time I've heard a story about sin or a lot of bad language, I'm really no better off. And then most of the time, you get this really icky feeling in the middle of it, and you're like, can I get out of here? Like this? I don't want to be here. Listen to this.
Yeah. And there's certain aspects of like addiction counseling that principle definitely is certainly helpful. It's just like, are we really helping the situation here by talking about the details about how you scored cocaine and then did it on the toilet seat of your girlfriend's house? Can we just leave it as I sinned and did drugs? And the difference between the two is like, what sort of corrupting statement are you trying to make? Are you trying to explain the situation? Are you trying to show me what sort of life you're living? Or is it you're glorifying the mess and you're reliving the problem? Why not just leave it as, yeah, I did drugs at my girlfriend's house?
And in some sense, I hear we're talking about that calling of the sin, and it makes me go back to the original fallout of Satan, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, can you take this perversion and this darkness, spin it where, as I tell this story, my underlying goal is to get Matt and Carrie to go, oh, wow, Ivan is really, really cool because of this sin, right?
I think one of the biggest instances where adults experience the fear of people is when they're in a social situation. You're a Christian in a social situation and everybody around you is talking inappropriately. There's a massive temptation to be like, I need to talk like this and throw out just a casual F word in order to fit in with everybody else if they're using the F word. And it's so irrational, but that's the fear of people can be a very dangerous thing. And lots of Christians, we submit to temptation and peer pressure just like children do, just in different ways.
Yeah, we're pulling up a chair at the table when Jesus probably would have flipped it.
Yeah, 100%.
Should Christians veer away from music, movies, and other entertainment that has cussing?
I would say generally, yeah, that's a good idea. There's a principle of garbage in, garbage out with our souls, sure, that whatever we're intaking, put into our hearts, comes out of our hearts. So a more elegant way to say that is G.K. Beale said, we become what we worship. And so...
Well, and something I was thinking about earlier, too, is you mentioned damnation and what was the other
hell.
one? Hell was like, if I'm intaking that from a media standpoint, from a flippant standpoint to where those words have essentially become meaningless, then when I hear them in a meaningful situation, they're nothing to me.
Yeah.
Because they've already been watered down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a gravity that's missing from those words. And so I think we've got to watch out for that. Does that say that legalistically you should never watch an R-rated movie or you should never go to a movie theater? Let's not roll the clock back to those type of 1950s sort of times. But I think that there is something to be said for figure out whether something's worthy of worship and figure out whether something's worthy of intaking into your soul and into your body. And if it's not, then get rid of it. The amount of things that Dana and I start to stream and then turn off is high. I mean, it's very high because you never know exactly what you're getting into with certain things nowadays. And so you watch a documentary and it's all of a sudden everybody's using the F word. You're like, oh, this is not what I expected. Let's turn this off. And I thought we were going to watch a documentary on porpoises, and then everybody's cussing like a sailor.
So that takes me back to a moment when I was younger. There was a movie, I remember seeing it on television, and it was in its televised state of censored and in a quasi-appropriate manner.
Yeah.
Well, but then I remembered I'd only seen it in piecemealed parts, so I rented it once. And I'm like 20 minutes into this thing, and it is cussing so much. I think that was one of the first times in my life I actually felt convicted. Like, I felt so icky, and like I turned it off, never even finished it, and it went back.
Mm-hmm.
And still to this day, I remember that feeling I had.
There's lots of things that, can you do it in your Christian liberty as a Christian? Probably. But is it worthwhile to do? No. Because it infects our minds, and especially what we listen to and what music is coming on our radio. I see a difference when I'm intaking scripture more and intaking other media less. I entered into a phase where after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I took Facebook and Instagram and all social media off my phone.
Really?
Yeah. There was so much evil that was being discussed in a variety of different ways that I just didn't want to intake that. Like, I didn't want to have that.
Not even evil too, but just things that maybe we shouldn't even be thinking about.
Right.
Conspiracy theories, and it wasn't this, it was that. And
Yeah.
what value is it bringing me?
Yeah. And I just wanted to mentally leave it at a good Christian man senselessly was murdered. And I don't want to go down the rabbit hole on anything else. And there'll be multiple times a year where I just intentionally fast from social media, delete it off my phone, because I don't want to get sucked into the nether regions of evil that is out there, that it's easy to get sucked into.
What can we do technology-wise to keep our safe boundaries, right? Can you put some of those streaming services in a safe for work or a age-appropriate setting?
I think for kids, don't give your kid a phone too early, for real. And then lock down how many apps that they can add. There's one of the best features you can use as a parent, if your kid does have a phone and they don't need one too early, is the feature of saying that there needs to be a code inputted before somebody downloads an app.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a parent, you can set a code that your child doesn't know. And if they want to download something on there, then they have to get your permission to do that. And so the phone is really locked down. And that's one of the best ways to do it. And that's actually something we recommend to guys who have a problem with porn, is like, get a code on your phone. First step, delete all the apps that you're using to access porn. Then get your phone locked down so that if you want to add an app, you have to put in a code. Then get somebody to be the keeper of that code. And then you can't download those things on their phone without permission.
Zero trust?
Yeah.
Zero trust.
That's what we'd call it in the IT world, zero trust, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I think accountability software is coming a lot of different ways. I really do like the new Covenant Eyes app called Victory. It is definitely an app that works. So the number one issue I counsel people with right now is pornography in marriage, hands down. And so there's a lot of guys that I am the accountability partner with on Covenant Eyes, and I can say that their app is solid. And so not only is it a filtering app, like you cannot access certain content or certain websites, but it sends me random screenshots of people's phone. And so I'm also monitoring all the stupid stuff that people are looking at on their phone. Are they on TikTok all the time? Are they looking for Quiznos subs? What are they looking for? I don't think Quiznos exists anymore.
I don't either.
But I think the best thing to do with kids and with people that have phone problems, just get a dumb phone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wish that there was a great movement back to people just having dumb phones. It would just help so much. There's high-tech versions of it. A phone that I do recommend is called the Light phone, and it is a phone specifically designed for people that struggle with pornography. It's a great option for an actual smartphone for people that don't need to access porn. But if you want a cheaper option, get yourself a flip phone or get yourself a dumb phone. Pull the BlackBerry out of the closet, or
the old Palms.
the razors.
The old
Yeah, the Palms. You're not going to miss anything. You're not going to miss anything at all.
Yeah. And just know that there is a difference between broadcasts, like we've talked about, and opt-in content. So anything that's opt-in is not filtered to the same standards, and it's all there, right? The Netflixes, the Spotifys, the whatever. And there's easy access to that if you're trying to filter it.
Yeah. Well, you think about YouTube, for example. YouTube, the biggest streaming service in the world, arguably. I don't have statistics to back that up, but it's a very large one. And so they get hundreds of thousands of submissions of videos every single day for YouTube. And then they, in terms of people that are regulating content, you're talking hundreds of people. And so the amount of content being uploaded versus the number of people that are actually policing the content is low. A lot of what these companies are doing is they're using bots and AI and community policing in order to regulate the content. And if you give a child unfettered access to YouTube or other places, there is a high probability that your loved one is going to experience something that was not intended, especially with the algorithmish stuffs where you view one thing and then it automatically leads to another thing, which spirals into something. And then 5 hours later, you're watching children in Taiwan build skateboards. I don't know, whatever. But it's just, you never know what rabbit hole you're going to go down to.
What should a Christian do if cussing has become a habit?
Well, I think that to seek accountability and seek help, the one thing to do is to not keep your problems to yourself. Ask for your brothers and sisters to give you help and to hold you accountable. And specifically say to your friends and your Christian friends, like, look, I'm trying not to say these words anymore, and I want you to stop me. Even if you don't have the conviction, you tell me that I should stop. And seek accountability from other people. And then grow in the admonition and wisdom of the Lord. And so keep in the Word, keep in church, keep growing in things that are holy. And the more that our hearts are intaking holiness and intaking the goodness of Jesus, the more that's going to flow out from us and give us a distaste for distasteful things. And so garbage in, garbage out, good stuff in, good stuff out. We have to keep honestly seeking the Lord and intaking Him.
Thanks for tuning in to the NorthWoods Church Matters podcast. If you'd like to find out more about NorthWoods Church, you can visit us at our website, www.northwoodschurch.org. Again, that's www.northwoodschurch.org.